about the Pythagorean Theorem. So to use the Pythagorean Theorem, you need to have a triangle that has a 90-degree angle. This type of triangle is also known as a right triangle. So looking at this triangle, you need to determine which side is the hypotenuse, also known as the longest side. So the hypotenuse is always opposite to your right angle. So if we draw a triangle this way, we get the 90 degrees here. So your hypotenuse would be right there. And say you would have the triangle like this, where your 90-degree angle is right here. Again, your hypotenuse would be right there. So it's important to know your hypotenuse because your hypotenuse is your longest side. The Pythagorean theorem states that the length of one leg squared plus the length of the other leg of the triangle squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared, which we write as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So now I'm going to get into an example to show you how to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we have a triangle, and we'll say this length is 4, the other leg is 3, so we need to solve for the hypotenuse. So we'll do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know both legs, so we'll plug those in. So 3 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. So we know 3 squared is 9 plus 16 equals c squared. So 25 equals c squared. So we take the square root of both sides, and we find that c, or the hypotenuse for this right triangle, is equal to 5. Well, now we'll run through another problem here. So again, we have a right triangle because we're using the Pythagorean theorem. So we'll say that this length is 16 and the length of this leg is 12. And again, we need to solve for the hypotenuse. So we know a squared and we know b squared, but we still need to solve for c. So a squared is 12 squared plus 16 squared equals c squared. So we have 144 plus 256 equals c squared. So the hypotenuse then c squared equals 400. So then we take the square root of both sides and we find that c equals 20. So the hypotenuse of this triangle is equal to 20. But we can also use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for a leg. So let's say we're given a leg as well as the hypotenuse. So with this right triangle, we are given the hypotenuse of 10, and we're given one of the legs 6. So now we need to solve for this leg. So we'll just have to rearrange the equation. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but we need to solve for a. So we take c squared minus b squared to equal a squared. So 10 squared minus 6 squared equals a squared. So it'd be 100 minus 36 equals a squared. So a squared equals 64. So then we take the square root of both sides, and we find that a equals 8. So the length of this leg is 8. I'll run through another problem so that way. Okay, so another problem. We'll say that hypotenuse is equal to 14, and this leg is 3. So we need to solve for this leg. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we already know a and c, so we need to solve for b. So b squared equals c squared minus a squared. So b squared is equal to 14 squared minus 3 squared. So this leg squared is equal to 196 minus 9. So b squared is equal to 187. So we take the square root of both sides, and we find that this length is approximately 13.67. I hope this video was helpful and you have a better understanding of the Pythagorean theorem. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you.